What's up everybody? Today we're going to be making bell peppers and beef from Space Cowboy, and I'm also going to be showing you a traditional Chinese dish as well, and I'm going to make a spin-off of this. So if you're ready, let's dive into this recipe.
What's cooking?
Special bell peppers and beef.
Listen, Jet.
This guy's a major player in the syndicate, operates all around the asteroids.
You said bell peppers and beef.
His name's Asimov Solensen. Are you listening to me?
There's no beef in here. So you wouldn't really call it bell peppers and beef, now would you?
Yes, I would.
Well, it's not!
Alright, let's get started making this bell peppers and beef from Cowboy Bebop. Alright, so the most obvious ingredient here is going to be a bell pepper. For this first dish, I'm going to be using 2 whole bell peppers, and I just like to cut these and then kind of roll them out, leaving that core out. Then I just like to flatten it down with my hands, and then it makes it super easy to cut this into very thin strips. And try to keep your cuts pretty consistent here. That way your peppers cook evenly throughout the entire cooking process. Next, I'm going to be cutting up some mushrooms because in the show they're actually eating mushrooms and not beef because they are broke, and Spike gets pretty upset about this and it's a funny scene. But you're going to chop these up the exact same way as you did with your bell peppers into thin strips. I find the easiest way is to halve your mushrooms and then lay them flat on their sides. Since they are small, they might slide around a little bit, and this is going to prevent that. Then you can just take your knife and go about cutting them into thin strips. And this wouldn't be Chinese cooking without using one of the holy trinities of Chinese cooking, so I'm going to grab 2 cloves of garlic and just remove the skins by tapping them with a knife, and then I'm just going to mince this up into really fine bits. I like to slice it first and then use this knife motion here to finely mince it and get it ready for a shallow fry. Now I like to assemble what is called a wok clock because wok cooking is extremely fast and furious. So you need to set up your ingredients accordingly from starting right to left with the ones that are going in first. So I'm going to start with my garlic, bell peppers, and then mushrooms. Now we need a stir fry sauce, so I'm adding in about 3 tablespoons of soy sauce. Followed up with 2 tablespoons of hoisin sauce. This is going to make our sauce nice and sticky. It is a sweet sauce made of soy and plum. A small splash of white vinegar. A little squeeze of sriracha sauce. I'd say about a teaspoon, 2 or 3 dashes of sesame oil, followed up with a few dashes of fish sauce. Give that a quick mix and we're ready to begin our cooking process. To a wok, add just enough vegetable or canola oil to coat the bottom of the pan. I like to actually pick my wok up and kind of just swirl this oil around so it coats the edges evenly. Place this over high heat and get your oil ripping hot. Now you're going to add in your garlic, and it's not going to take long for this stuff to turn brown, so you have to work quick. I actually like to use a plastic ladle in my non-stick wok. If you have a carbon steel wok, you can use anything you want to stir this with. Once your garlic is starting to become golden, you want to immediately add in your bell peppers because your garlic is going to continue to cook, and you want to immediately go ahead and kind of toss this stuff around. Keep in mind you are working with extremely high temperatures, so be careful about not sloshing anything out with oil on it. So you're going to kind of just use this maneuver here and toss your bell peppers around. I did actually season mine with a little bit of black pepper here. White pepper would be more appropriate, but you can go ahead and add in your mushrooms after your peppers have cooked for about 1 or 2 minutes and begin moving these around and incorporating them so they can cook evenly. Now you just want to add just enough sauce to where it'll kind of bubble up and caramelize, and then you can toss your vegetables around and let it coat and kind of glaze those vegetables on this really high heat. And in about 3 minutes of cook time, you have bell peppers and beef. Well, bell peppers and mushrooms. Alright, now it's time to add some meat to this. I'm going to be making another version of this called Chinjao Rosu, which roughly translates to spring peppers with beef. Now I'm going to be using 1 bell pepper and adding in a jalapeno and serrano in place of my other bell pepper for some added heat. I'm also going to be using about 5 ounces of this beef shoulder steak. It's got a nice marbling to it, plenty of fat, and it's not super expensive. So in short, This recipe is just taking out the mushrooms, adding in the beef, and then using a different variety of pepper in place of our green pepper. So I'm also just going to chop this up nice and thin into strips, just like I did my other peppers. The same thing goes for the beef. I'm just going to cut this into nice long strips, keeping everything consistent. Now you can add all of your beef to a bowl and add in about 2 teaspoons of cornstarch to this. Now what this is going to do is help act as like a bonding agent when we add in a little bit of our stir fry sauce. We're going to mix this around and kind of try to whip in a little bit of air into this, and what this is going to do is create almost a flavor shield for our beef. Also, I seasoned this with a little bit of black pepper off camera. Now, we're using a different cooking process here. I'm going to be adding almost a puddle of oil to my wok, and what we're going to do with this is essentially shallow fry our beef, remove it, and then add some vegetables in after we drain this oil. So once you add your beef, you're going to kind of break it out and kind of flatten it to the pan. That way it gets nice and crisp on one side. Once you have this cooking for a little while, it will start to get a kind of crust on it. And once again, this happens really quickly, and you can almost feel it with the ladle or spoon, whatever you're using with, to know when it's done. So you'll see it gets these nice brown bits on the outside, but it still remains nice and tender. And I would say this took about 1 or 2 minutes total to cook before I removed it, because we are going to be placing this beef back in. Now you want to reserve a little bit of your beef infused oil in the bottom of your wok so we can cook our vegetables just like we did last time. So first I'm adding in my garlic, letting that come up to temperature and cooking it until it's golden brown. Add in your bell peppers and your serrano and jalapeno peppers, cook it, and then add in your stir fry sauce. Once your stir fry sauce is in, you want to let it bubble up and kind of caramelize before tossing it around. So toss in your peppers, and once they are tender, you can add your beef back in. Give this a quick mix, and once it's warmed back up, you can go ahead and serve it on a plate. And the final result is some aromatic bell peppers and beef that has the smell of garlic, nice little spicy undertones, and it just smells absolutely delicious. So let's give this a taste test. Alright everybody, the bell peppers and beef is complete. I'm going to go ahead and give this a quick taste test. So immediately going with a beef strip. It's still super tender, and it's got a nice glazed exterior from that paste that we made, kind of mixing it together, and as well as the stir fry sauce that we made. I'm going to get a second bite with each kind of pepper in here, as well as the beef. Alright, so the complete bite, this dish is extremely good. I wasn't expecting as much flavor to come from this since it's such basic ingredients, but got a nice garlicky kind of undertone taste from the garlic. And you all know what bell peppers taste like, but the added kick from the jalapeno pepper as well as the serrano pepper, there's just enough spice on this to where it's not overpowering, but it's definitely there. And then you get a bunch of umami flavor from that stir fry sauce that we made. You just can't go wrong with it. It's extremely simple, comes together very quickly, and I would highly recommend it to anybody. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and drop a like on it, subscribe to my channel, and with that being said, I will see you next time, Space Cowboy. Cheers.